Well, Razorback fans, I had something extremely disappointing told to me yesterday about someone in the administration at the University of Arkansas and what they expect out of the Razorback football program. I hate it. And I'm going to talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday as we are entering into the month of May, getting into the hot and heavy of it all, and it kind of slows down a little bit, but we will have some more football talk about some additions that have been made, as well as some Razorback basketball talk and something that's really also very dumb. But I wanted to open up the show today talking about something that's a pretty big picture thing. I'm not going to name specific names because of the individuals I talked to, as well as the individuals mentioned. It's just not my place. But I think it's something that a lot of you are probably not surprised by, and it's really the hot topic. It has to do with Razorback football. And we all know that the Razorback football program has not been where it is needed to be. We have felt like for a while now that there just isn't the attention being paid to it, not the energy that needs to be brought from it, just nothing, like really, truly nothing that could get anybody really pumped up and excited about this season has been going on. And it's sad. It's truly a sad thing. But it keeps going back to, if you're a fan, you keep wondering why. Like, why does it have to be this way? Why did it have to stay status quo? Why did it have to not have any changes? Was it a money thing? Was it a, whatever it is? It could be a plethora of different ideas and things. But something that I've heard, and it was kind of reiterated to me again yesterday from certain people I've talked to, is that it seems like there is an idea among the administration at the University of Arkansas and the athletic department that football at Arkansas can only do so much. Every few years or so, the hope that they have is that they can be competitive on occasion. But most years, more often than not, they're just going to have to be accepting of average to possible below average, because that's just the way it is. They do not have the resources to compete at that high level, and they've accepted that fate. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I never want to have anybody in the administration at the University of Arkansas in the athletic department in any sport saying that we just can't win. We just don't have the pieces. We just don't have the resources. We'll be lucky if it happens every so often, but it's just the way it is. No. I don't want to have any person in the administration feeling that way, much less saying that. Saying that to real people, to real Razorback fans. And maybe some of you who are listening to this right now or watching this right now have heard the same thing or something similar. This irks me, and it infuriates me to no end, because there is no reason, no excuse, nothing like that to where you should ever have anybody in your athletic department having that mindset, that type of mentality. Because I am aware of what things Arkansas may be limited to, things may be hurting Arkansas, whatever it may be. I'm aware of that. You're aware of that. You're aware of the expectations. You're aware of the current status of what the SEC looks like. You're aware of everything that they have to go up against all the time. You're aware of that. But that does not mean that anybody who is in a position of power should just be accepting of that. It wasn't that long ago, folks, 15 years ago, which I know is a while. It is a while. But it wasn't that long ago from when Arkansas, as a football program, was competing and winning at a very high level. They had back-to-back seasons with 10-plus wins, and they had a trajectory that was incredible. Like, that was a real thing. And I would even make the argument that Arkansas was doing it during a time in the SEC to which it was as competitive and as difficult as ever. I'm talking about 2010, 2011. Now, I know college football has changed dramatically since then, 100%. The NIL, the transfer portal, all of those things. It's made major shifts happen in the college sports landscape. No question about it. But there is still an element to where you look back upon that and you say, hey, what's really changed to where Arkansas can't compete? What's changed? Well, you say NIL, you say transfer portal. You say, well, okay, that's changed for everybody, though. Well, we just don't have the resources. Well, why? How do we get those resources? How do we work towards that? Just a shrug of the shoulders. Because, see, if I was athletic director or the administration or whoever, and I felt like my football program couldn't compete at the highest level, then I would put together a goal of trying to make sure that happens. If it's simply NIL, then what I would do is I would try to put together things to make that happen. But instead, it's just, it's the way it is. Sorry. That's not a good enough answer for me, and I'm not going to be accepting of that answer. If I ever had anybody in the administration personally come to me and personally talk to me and say that about the football program, I want them gone. I don't want them here. I don't want them to be a part of it. That's not what I want. That's a loser. And I don't want a loser having any sort of power in Razorback athletics. And on top of all of that, like, okay, forget the stuff about, oh, well, how does it compare with other, teams in the past and all that. Forget all that noise. I look at Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is competing at a high level. Why? Do they have more resources than Arkansas? Do they have just that tremendous, much more amount of NIL? Maybe, but it's because they were winning, and people like to donate, and people like to give their own money when it's a winning product. They seem to be doing okay. You're telling me that Ole Miss can do it, but you can't, Arkansas? I even look at Missouri. Missouri's had a lot of success over the past couple seasons, in spite of having Eli Drinkwitz as their coach. You're telling me that Missouri can do it? Missouri has something that you don't? Has some sort of resource you don't have? And they can do it at a high level? I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I want my football program to have somebody or many people in charge of it that see a vision of how they can win a championship in that sport. Even if the chances are slim, even if the chances are few and far between, it has to be done. And the more that I have kind of put all these pieces together, folks, the more I believe that these people who had told me this, because I've heard it from others too, that it's a trickle-down effect. Because if you've heard some of the things that Sam Pittman has said in his press conferences, especially over here recently, whether he means to or not, you can tell that there is no expectation of him to play for a national championship, coach for a national championship, win a national championship. Like, you can tell that I think he was even a few weeks ago during spring ball when he was asked about the transfer portal window and how he wanted it to be moved up to the beginning of the year, which is like, you say you want it moved up there because you feel like there's never going to be a time where you're preparing for a playoff game. You're like, oh, it'd be easier on me for then. Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be easier on teams that are in the playoff. So you just accept that, yeah, well, we're never going to be there. So that's fine with me. I hate it. I hate it. And it's an infectious type of disease that can plague an entire program. And those are the things that make me feel like you're in the situation you're in because of that. Because of accepting average, accepting mediocre, accepting that this is just the way it is, instead of trying to do your dadgum job and find ways to be elite. Don't give me excuses. Your job is to find ways to win at the highest level. Your job is never to accept average, regardless. And even if you do, lie to me about it. Lie to me and say that you have full confidence that you can win at this level at the University of Arkansas. Say what you want about Frank Broyles, but at least Frank Broyles believed that in every sport, that they could win a championship in any sport, every sport. And he wouldn't have accepted that. You know, I think when Petrino was hired, y'all know how big of a fan I am of Petrino, and that was the last great coach Arkansas had. He didn't accept that. There was never a time I felt like Arkansas was just never going to get to that level because of lack of resources or anything like that. Even with Houston Nutt, who we all know how I feel about Houston Nutt, but at least with Houston Nutt, that was never an excuse. That was never a feeling. That was never an idea, because you felt like you were there. You were at least in the conversation. You could have had a few things go your way. But if this is the type of mentality that this athletic department wishes to portray and tell people of note, tell fans, tell boosters, tell donors, tell people in the foundation, tell people this straight up, I want no part of it. You need to go. You need to leave. You need to, before it gets worse. You are making it worse. And it is pathetic that you have people who are fine with that. Because I won't be. And you shouldn't either. It's not to say that Arkansas should be an Alabama or a Georgia or an LSU or that doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is mentality. What matters is your passion. What matters is your energy. What matters is your goal. Everyone's goal should be a championship. No matter how far away and how unattainable it seems, every single person should have a goal of winning it all. And I really hope Arkansas gets back to that one day. Just really pisses me off. But I will give you some updates on football as they added a couple new players from the transfer portal. What does it mean? We'll get into that. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers with highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways to play to win smart and to win big. So which players are going to be showing up in the biggest moments? And how can tracking their trends help you build your next bet? They have those things. They have the ways of putting together the parlays. Here's the thing. If you got something that's about to happen in a game in the middle of it and you feel really good about a particular player making a shot or having a big second half, you can get in on that. You can also back it up with a same game parlay. $200 in bonus bets to add the excitement if your first $5 bet hits. That's what they have to offer for you. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So Razorback football has another thing going on where they added some players here recently, trying to get that roster to the full of the rosters that or the scholarships that they have to offer, and had a couple guys from one side of the ball and the other side of the ball. We'll start with the linebacker, Andrew Harris. Arkansas signed a linebacker. He's 6'3", 223 pounds. He's out of Orlando, Florida, and he was a transfer from UCF. It almost seems pretty similar, doesn't it? I feel like here just recently, a few years ago, you had a transfer linebacker from UCF. But he's going to be a junior this upcoming season. He saw action in 9 games last year as a sophomore. He recorded 9 tackles with a half tackle for loss. He opened the season with 2 tackles, including a half tackle for loss against New Hampshire, and finished the season strong with 3 tackles versus BYU and 3 more in a win over Arizona. So, again, you got a guy who's just adding depth. It's really what it's about. Maybe he's somebody that could really do something. Maybe he could really get going and do some great things, but it's just somebody that they needed a piece there and needed to add somebody into it. And I'll say this about the linebacker core. It's so weird how I keep going back and forth each and every year, it seems, about linebackers. Sometimes I feel really good about them. Sometimes I don't. But this upcoming season, I feel solid about them, even though last year I felt like not too great because there's just so many unknowns. You lost all your linebackers you possibly could have wanted, and they just moved on. And so that's a tough thing. That's a tough thing to deal with. But this year I like it because I like Xavier Sorey, Steven Dix. I like those guys who have experience. We've got to see what they can actually do and how they can actually play. And so it'll be nice to see some added depth, much needed added depth there at the linebacker position. The other one was a wide receiver, which I want to dive into this a little bit more here in a second. But it's a former Florida State transfer wide receiver, Jalen Brown. This is per 24/7 Sports. That he's going to be signed with the Razorbacks. He's 6'1", 174 pounds, and he reached his decision during an official visit into Fayetteville, apparently this past last Thursday evening. And he talked about the coaches. He said, quote, just talking to coach and him being real, all the conversations with coaches and them just being real. Like, we need your speed. We want you. They got 1 scholarship left, and they're holding it for me, so that means a lot. It was an honor that team still thinks I'm going to bring a very big aspect to our team and program. I'm just going to carry that throughout the season. They wanted me here, so I'm going to give them my all. He has 3 years of eligibility remaining, which is kind of crazy because he started his career redshirting at LSU in 2023. Played in 9 games with 2 starts for Florida State in 2024. He's originally from Miami, and he had 8 catches for 75 yards in Mike Norvell's offense this past season. So you're like, wow, this guy played at LSU but didn't play, and then played at Florida State but also didn't play. And it was crazy because out of high school, in his class of 2023, he signed with LSU over Texas A&M, Michigan, Auburn, Georgia, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Penn State, Ole Miss, Florida, Miami, Texas, Tennessee, and many others. So the dude was everything coming out of high school. He's a 4-star player coming out of high school, and they considered him a top 100 talent. He's 91st overall, 14th among wide receivers, and 19th overall in Florida. So that's big time. And apparently the composite ratings had him at 71st overall, with the 12th best wide receiver of the 2023 class. So it's kind of an interesting deal because wide receivers obviously are very important, and you got to have somebody to catch the ball and everything. But it's like, how exciting can you be when you see a guy when he's coming out of high school like that? You're like, man, this is big time. This is a big time get. Can't wait to see what he's got. But then he goes to 2 other big time schools, and doesn't really see the field at all. You become, okay, so what's the deal here? What's the problem here? Well, he has speed, he has athleticism, so maybe, just maybe, he can find his way onto the field. But to me, what you can call it concerning, you can call it dramatic, whatever it is. But to me, I am concerned about the approach that they've had with wide receiver, where it felt like they were going to be okay before spring started, and now that spring's ended, they're like, we need a lot more. We need more receivers. What does that say about a guy like a Courtney Crutchfield? What does that say about Omega Blake and Cam Shanks and CC as well, like Raylan Sharp? What does it say about all those guys? Are they, you could say it's adding for depth, which maybe it is. It could be simple like that. But we know that there have been certain players that have not really seen the field very much and not have very good approach in spring and everything. So it could end up being a problem. And I'm a little bit concerned. But getting somebody like this, it's not going to hurt you. In fact, I'd say it's a pretty good pickup. Maybe in this type of offense, maybe in this type of setup, he can do something great. We'll wait and see, but it's a nice little get there at the wide receiver position, and also with the linebacker helping out the depth there too. It's very important. We'll get into something that's been kind of getting thrown around as far as the report goes. And y'all have asked me about this, and I want to talk about it. It has to do with Boogie Fland. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. And with Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and so much more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, they can really help you connect with a freelance expert who delivers incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day with multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale businesses much more efficiently. So visit Upwork.com and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with talent that's top tier and grow your business today. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I wanted to address this. Some of you have brought this up, and it kind of came out, I guess, a week ago. It started gaining traction, and now there has been a few people who have reported it, or at least brought it to the forefront, and dealing with Boogie Fland, because as we know, Boogie Fland declared for the NBA draft, and it wasn't surprising. A lot of draft boards have him being a draftable player, and he did that. Well, then there was the thing thrown into the mix where later he's like, I'm going into the transfer portal as well. So it's like, okay, well, why? Well, he's keeping his options open, like we talked about it when it happened. He keeps your options open, especially with some of the money that gets thrown around and like having to kind of a fallback option and all of that. Well, now there was reports coming out about the possibility that with Boogie Fland, that there's a chance that he could command as much as $7 million in NIL if he was to return to college. And one of those teams being the Florida Gators, the team that just won the championship. Boogie Fland for $7 million. Now, some of you have asked me, is there truth to this? Is it true? Is it something that is actual, like, could that happen? And my response to you is no. No. It is just not true. Could not be further from the truth. Sometimes we have to use common sense, and sometimes we have to look at it where we looked at the big picture of college athletics, and yes, it's ever changing. Yes, values go up and everything. But folks, $7 million for Boogie Fland. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's even throwing that around. If anybody's doing that, it's agents and reps. But Florida, for $7 million, is not going after Boogie Fland and not trying to do that for $7 million. Even if they were, I hope they would, because that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. But it's not just me saying that it's not true. I mean, you got national college basketball reporters who are much more plugged in than me, even knowing that it's not true. So Boogie Fland ain't getting that money, folks. Great player. Wish him nothing but the best. He ain't getting $7 million. Nowhere close to $7 million. Just not happening and just not true. So when these figures get thrown out, a lot of times you got to just take it into consideration and use logic, use rationale. Because it'd be one thing if someone was saying, oh, he could command $3 million. It's like, well, still very high. But you're talking about like over double that. Stop. You might as well have gone after Cooper Flagg. Try to convince him to stay in college for another year if you're going to do that. So it's just simply not true. But either way, wanted to address that. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.